and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here today to do the tarot part of the read for the full moon in Libra that took place yesterday or the day previous on the 7th if you are in a different part of the world to the UK. You will have had your full moon earlier. So yesterday I did a run through of the astrology and it took me longer than I thought it was going to do. In fact, it was kind of over an hour long in the end, so I decided to cut it at that point and come back and do the reading today. So that's what I'm doing today. So this is a collective reading for the full moon energy in Libra, which does last from the full moon point up until the 23rd of, or 22nd, again depending on where you are in the world, 22nd, 23rd of April, when we have the new moon in Taurus. So I'm going to dive into the reading and show you the Moonology card that we have here, which I've pulled out just because it is the full moon in Libra card, and it says a win-win outcome is forecast. Full moon in Libra, of course, all about our relationships, and also because it has the sun in Aries, it's also about the relationship that we have with ourselves as much as the relationship that we have with others as well. Balance, fairness, harmony, justice, all those kind of Libra qualities, shall we say, being highlighted by the sun in Aries, shining over to that moon. And if you're interested in the astrology part, check out the video that I did yesterday. I put it up on my channel, so it's there ready to be watched. So thank you very much for anybody who has watched that video, and thank you also for anybody who's come back to watch this video. Thank you also for those of you who have subscribed to my channel already. Please could you also, if you haven't subscribed and you're watching this today, could you subscribe to my channel, because that would really help me grow my channel, which is what I'm hoping to do at this coming year. And also thumbs it up if you like my videos. Please thumbs them up, because that gives them more output on the bigger YouTube stage out there in the world as well, which means that more people can come back to my channel as well and decide whether or not they want to subscribe or like my videos, etc. But it gives it the chance to get out there and for people to see it, which is really how YouTube works. So it's up to the audience really, rather than the person who's actually putting the videos out there, as to how well they're accepted. So I'm going to start this reading with the heart of the reading today, the heart of it. What is happening in the heart of this collective read today is the Queen of Earth in reverse. And the Queen of Earth energy relates literally to the earth signs of Taurus, Virgo and Capricorn. It's the feminine qualities of those signs, although that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't relate to any male signs that are of the earth signs, shall we say. But because this is a collective read, I'm going to see this more as the feminine qualities that are being kind of portrayed in this card, shall we say. So with the Queen, when she's in the upright position, she's very strong, very confident. You can see it there. You can see it in the kind of the way her chin, she's got this very strong, prominent kind of look to her. And there's always this air of confidence about the Queen of Pentacles when they're in their power. But when they're upside down, there's always this sign of insecurity, because earth, physical, is all about stability. It's all about security. It's all about connecting with the earth, knowing, grounding yourself, knowing who you are, where you come from, that strength, that rootedness that we have. But in the reverse position, it's the complete opposite. It's like being out on a limb. It's like not having any groundedness, not knowing your footing, not knowing what's coming next, not knowing where you are heading, not kind of being rooted in yourself enough, not enough grounding, lack of confidence in your own judgment. And I feel that this is very much what's going on the globe at this moment in time as well. That kind of represents to me the earth in itself. And that we are in this situation at the moment where we don't know what's going on. We're not grounded, we're not rooted, we're not secure, we're not safe. We don't have this kind of stability, and a kind of, you know, the Queen of Pentacles is very fixed. The earth signs are quite, like, particularly the Taurus energy is very fixed, so it kind of likes to do the same thing day after day. It has like a routine, it kind of, you know, it follows tradition, and all of that is kind of being uprooted at this time in our lives. You know, people are no longer getting up to go to work in the morning, kids are no longer getting up to go to school in the morning. Everything is kind of being turned on its head, literally turned on its head. And it's covered by the Five of Fire. The card of self-doubt. The card of really kind of looking at our own issues, our own kind of... I always see this card as being kind of all dressed up with nowhere to go type of energy. Like the party is not happening, or the party's over. And there is a sense of the party being over at this moment in time. There is a sense of, as I was talking about in my astrology that I did yesterday, the Saturn in Aquarius is restricting our party time. It's restricting our family. It's restricting our relationships. It's restricting all of the stuff that we would normally be able to do. And so there is this deep sense, I mean, this is our challenge, this is our kind of covering card, this is the thing, our obstacle, if you like. And in many ways it is the obstacle for us to be able to accept that this is where we are at this time. We are at this kind of does very much look to me like this kind of self-isolation energy. I always think of her as just kind of plonking herself down in this kind of place, and this kind of stubbornness of I'm not doing anything else, I'm not going further. Although it is more a fire energy than it is a earth energy. There's this kind of sense of I don't want to, I'm not going to. You can't make me, I feel with this card. But also because it's our challenge and because it's our obstacle, that I also feel as a creative energy, it's also asking us to become more creative in the way that we kind of would normally do things, because we can't do them in the same way as we normally would. So we're having to look for more kind of creative outlets, which is what these kind of lights up here for me represent, these more creative outlets and way of doing things that we don't normally do or would have to do. This could also represent, as I was saying in my reading yesterday, in the astrological reading, this could also represent our kind of ways of looking at things in a different way. Of being asked to see things in a different light, or a different view coming in, a different perspective in some ways, a different light bulb moments, Taurus. Uranus in Taurus moments as well, and the grand trine that we've had recently, the air trine, and Mars in Saturn as well, sorry, not Mars in Saturn, Mars and Saturn in Aquarius, kind of Mars especially, as it's now leaving Saturn behind and kind of forging off ahead and front again, doing its own thing. It's kind of this new creative spark that is coming into play and lighting up the way again. So in our heads at this moment in time, and the energy that we're kind of aware of with the Queen of Water here, this to me kind of represents the murky depths of the emotions and the feelings. I get a very kind of strong feeling of Neptune with this card. Queen of Cups always reminds me of this kind of Neptunian energy. She is the water signs of Cancer, Scorpio and Pisces. And Neptune is in Pisces at this time. It's a very dreamy energy. It's a very subconscious energy. It's a very feeling, very sensitive. And she has her eyes shut. And I feel in some ways that this does represent us at the moment. You know, we have got our eyes kind of closed. In some ways, you know, we're not kind of aware of the bigger picture of what is happening behind the scenes, shall we say. So this is a kind of behind the scenes, deeper feeling energy of the story that is still unfolding, which is how I see Neptune. Neptune has been, as I said yesterday in my reading, she has been in the sign of Pisces, her home, so the sign of Pisces, her home sign, her home placement since 2012, I do believe. Is it 2012? Or maybe it's 2008. I'm getting confused now with Pluto. I know that Pluto moved into Capricorn I think Pluto moved into Capricorn in 2008. And I think Neptune moved in 2012. So she's been there for quite some time. She's been there for 8 years, and she's not moving out until 2025. So she's still there, and for me she's kind of the dream weaver. She's the energy that kind of is behind the scenes. She is the kind of creative energy. She is the energy that we have to kind of on some level surrender ourselves to. And this is what this card is saying to me today, that this is about, this kind of, we don't know, we're having to surrender in some ways, our egos. We're having to surrender our story. We're having to surrender who we thought we were and how we thought the world was going to look, and how we have been so kind of sure about the world never changing and things always being the same. And we are kind of reaching this point now, which I think this is what this energy is here about as well, that the Queen of Pentacles is very kind of sure in many ways that things aren't going to change, very fixed, very kind of like, this is how it is and this is how it will always be. And there's a lot of people collectively who have this kind of belief system. But this card here, which is upright as well, so for me it's kind of a positive outlook, the need to surrender, because she does remind me of the High Priestess energy. That's what I was going to say earlier, but I didn't actually get round to saying it as I got sidetracked onto something else. She has this same energy as the High Priestess, who is all about, on a deeper level, the subconscious, and literally probably would be seen as the Neptune energy. So this is what's in our head at the moment, this kind of sense, for me, this sense of inward, like going inward more, kind of trusting, a need to trust our emotional journey here and what is happening inwardly as much as what is happening outwardly as well. And then we have these two cards here for this Libra full moon collective reading, which is the air signs. Both of these are air, the King of Air and the Page of Air. The Page of Air I see at the moment as our almost like needing to stretch those wings, our freedom. It's kind of, you know, it's being restricted, and this is kind of again that restrictive energy. The King of Air, when he's up the right way, he's very fair. He's, for me, both of these kind of look quite Libran energies today, especially this one is kind of like, this is the kind of, you know, the balance and the harmony of the Libran scales themselves, you know, the way they kind of, just reminds me today for some reason of the actual Libra scales, and this is kind of the center point, and this is the kind of weighing parts of it, you know, and our balance and our justice and our need for harmony and our need to kind of find that for ourselves. The pages are all about new energy or young energy, energy that needs to be nurtured, needs to be looked after, taken care of, so it can grow into something more than what it is. And so the page will grow into the more mature energy of this energy here, which today for me is kind of representing the Saturn energy as well, because it's the king in, I see this as being in Aquarius, this Aquarius air energy. And Saturn is being very kind of restrictive. This is the restrictive, blocking energy of the air element at the moment. And again, if you watch my video that I did yesterday, I also talk about how for me it kind of has a representation of what's happening on the planet globally when it comes to this health issue that we're facing, and how it is related to the actual air that we breathe, and the way that it affects our body is through the restriction. And so Saturn in Aquarius kind of has that constricting, blocking kind of energy about it for me, especially today. And this coming out as this kind of Libra balance, harmony, which is kind of where we need to go with this energy, in the sense of there needs to be more equilibrium on this planet. There needs to be a sense of more fairness, more harmony, more balance. There needs to be more equality. And this energy, the page, is all about, you know, those kind of early stirrings of questioning and asking and seeking answers and seeing through things as well, which is how it's kind of feeling with this card here too. Is kind of questing, kind of sparking, looking at things in a different way, in a way that you may not have expected yourself to look at. but we do have this restrictive, and in some ways this energy is also helping this to happen as well, which is ironic, because it's almost, you know, because we've had to close everything down and block everything out in some ways, which is also this here as well, this kind of stillness, this kind of sense of stillness, a kind of a sense of peace on some level, kind of above all the noise and the kind of mayhem of what's happening. There's also this kind of stillness of things, of this kind of I just feel this awakening. It hasn't happened yet. It's kind of like, you know, she's still in this depth of sleeping at the moment, but it is like there is this kind of awakening happening on the planet. And although this is at the moment, it's in reverse, and it's not being, things are not being seen as clearly as they could be. I feel that, you know, this is the underlying energy of like asking the questions and looking for the answers, and not just accepting things the way they always have been, and not just saying, okay, well, all right then, you know, that's what you tell me, that's what I'm just going to believe. And underneath it all, in our subconscious realm, we have the King of Fire, King of Rods, King of Passion, King of Creativity in many ways, passion, fire. It's, for me, it's kind of Leo card of courage. It is the fire energies of Sagittarius, Aries and Leo, which could also represent this sun energy that we've got at this moment in time with the sun in Aries. And it is, of course, a time when we do want to get out, and we do want to be, you know, out there in the sunshine, and we do want to be, you know, sharing. And there's a sense here, but I also get a sense here of, you know, this being representing the Libra full moon energy of our relationships as well, and trusting. Who can we trust? Can we trust in the same way? I've said this before with this card that's come out quite often in quite a few readings. I've seen this card lately come out quite a lot in other readings, and it just, for me, is representing this kind of mistrust of relationships in general, due to social distancing as well, due to the fact that we can't just behave in a way that we would normally behave when it comes to meeting people. You know, there's more of a kind of standoffish, and like, you know, you can't just do things in the normal way of how we normally would behave. And so I feel as well, on some level, there's a lot of guarding of our heart energy as well, a lot of guarding of our kind of trust of people in general. Although he does kind of have this heart in his hands, and he's kind of holding it out there because it's in reverse and it's in the subconscious. I feel as though it's kind of, you know, we're kind of having to question this whole disconnect thing as well. But there is a transformation taking place on a much deeper level. If you see here, his face has kind of got this butterfly or this kind of moth type creature, and it kind of represents that transformation taking place. But because it's on the head as well, which is a very Aries thing, it can be very hot-headed. Aries can be very kind of aggressive and very kind of, there could also be that representation here as well, this kind of forcefulness, this kind of having to force a situation, which is kind of what we've all been, you know, this is where we are at. We've all been forced into this situation. It's not like we've just kind of decided this, each and every one of us, for ourselves. So there can also be this feeling of this Aries energy, which is Mars, of course. And I did talk about that as well yesterday in my reading, about how everything has kind of become militarized since Saturn and Mars met up in Aquarius. There has become this militarization of enforcement, of not being able to get out and about and kind of, you know, enjoy the weather and party. And so in some ways it is kind of quenching that passion, that, you know, that drive, that, you know, summer's here and we all want to get out and do things, and it's kind of having to kind of contain that within us, because we are only allowed out to do the necessary things, you know, out for a walk once a day, and can't just jump in the car and go wherever you feel like. And, you know, it's kind of all that kind of passion is being, and expression, and not just that, but also that kind of getting this kind, you know, that need for something, that need to be able to do it. When you can't do it, you really have this driving passion to do it even more because you are being told you can't, which is very human nature. You know, the more you're told you can't do it, the more you want to do it. And that's the kind of feeling that I'm getting from this as well. But we have the Magician turning up in our energy that's moving in, and this is a great card to have in the position of what's coming in, because this is about manifestation. Again, it has a kind of similar energy for me with this card here as well, because I see her, like I said, I see her as the weaver, the creator, the storyteller, Neptune, the mystic, the kind of, in a way, the wizard behind the curtain kind of thing. But the Magician is about our manifestation, and here he's got this little fairy in his hand, and it is very similar to this card in the sense of how he's got his heart in his hand here and he's holding it out. Again, there's a similarity here because he does have, if you can see it, his hands are here. These are his hands here, and he has this tiny little fairy creature that he's holding there, which is kind of representing what he's manifesting. It's the magic of being able to manifest. And so there is a similarity between these cards as well. But what we are manifesting is something completely different, something new, something very, I would say, because we have Neptune in Pisces as well, it's very spiritual orientated, even though we can't see that at this moment in time. There does feel for me a very strong sense of movement towards this kind of awakening on this more spiritual level of who we are and our connection to everything. But the Magician is old and he's wise, and he's kind of, if you look at the way he's looking up, it kind of looks to me as if he's saying, like, you know, this is possible. You think you can't do this? Of course you can. But it does take experience. It does take this kind of belief as well. So in many ways we are being asked to believe in this creation, in this new beginning, in this new future, in something different. Often you see the Magician standing, one hand pointing up to the sky, one hand pointing down to the earth, and the reason for that is because it's literally about bringing, like, the meeting of the two on the physical plane, bringing the energy down onto the earth, onto the physical plane. And normally he would have all the tools of the fire energy, the emotional cup, and the brain's gone completely blank there. The fire rod, the swords, of course, for the mind as well, for the idea, because everything starts as an idea and then it kind of turns into a feeling, which is the emotions, and then you have the creative drive that kind of feeds that as well, or the emotion feeds the creative passion and keeps it going until you kind of manifest it and bring it into the physical realm. So I'm going to pull some more cards and clarify why these are here. Clarify the Queen of Earth. And we have the Eight of Wands, which is in reverse as well. So there is this kind of feeling that everything is kind of not flowing along as it should be, shall we say. Again, this block feeling, this feeling of not being able to get out and play, which is kind of also donated in this card as well. This feeling of not being able to enjoy ourselves in a way that we normally would be able to enjoy ourselves, especially as the weather kind of heats up, I feel, as well, which is kind of relating to this card here for me as well. You know, as things change, as things get warmer, we want to get out there and enjoy ourselves, especially in the northern hemisphere, because we don't kind of see long summers anyway. So there is this blockage, there is this kind of feeling that we can't just go with the flow of what we want to do and just be allowed to have fun and enjoy ourselves. And that we are kind of, you know, having to check ourselves, to keep ourselves in check as well. And it does have as well, if you look at this card, there is a kind of relation with the emotions as well, with this water here, which is kind of, when it's up the right way, you know, this water is kind of driving this boat forward, along with these kind of, you know, the flames here of kind of the creative energy of moving forward and getting things done, and life's going with the flow. And the boat for me always represents life. So when it's upside down, it's kind of in stormy, emotional situation where, you know, it's not going with the flow. It's kind of almost, in a way, again, I feel going backwards, but I get more of a deep sense of these dolphins here as well, not being able to get out there and enjoy and have fun. And I think that's the bigger message here as well. Having to kind of find our own creative fun and ways of doing things that we normally wouldn't do. So let's see why the Queen of Water is here. Why is the Queen of Water here for the collective Libra full moon reading? Card for the Queen of Water, please, universe. Why is the Queen of Water here? Sometimes you just don't get anything for a while. So can we have a card, please, for this Queen of Water? This Neptunian sense of dreamy feeling energy. What is it? The Queen of Water is here to tell us. What is the message behind the Queen of Water here? I am not getting anything with this cards. Not anything at all. I might actually change to another deck, which is a bit unusual. Okay, let's try this one. Queen of Water. Why is the Queen of Water here? There we go. We have the Seven of Wands. We also have the Justice and the Chariot card that have turned up as well. So 3 cards. Couldn't get any at all earlier, and now I've got 3. So first of all, the Seven of Wands is what's in our head and what we're aware of, is kind of battling other people's belief systems. This is a card of kind of standing up for what you believe to be true and who you are and what you're about. If you look here, he's kind of got this rod across his chest, so he's kind of guarding himself here as well, which is kind of very much what we are all doing at this moment in time, is having to guard ourselves and keep ourselves safe. And maybe this is how we're feeling as well, like, you know, we're being attacked, literally, and that, you know, everybody out there is our enemy. So that's the Seven of Wands, which was followed by the Justice card, which is the Libra card in reverse, which is a sense of feeling that everything is unjust at the moment. There isn't balance, there isn't harmony, there isn't this kind of sense of equality or equilibrium or things going our way. A sense of real unfairness, and maybe unfairness on a much bigger scale as well, or kind of like, you know, why do we deserve this? Why is this happening to us? What's causing this? And I think this is another thing with this card here, which is why it reminds me of this kind of Libra kind of scale energy as well. You see here that she's got this scales here, a big set of scales here. And I just get this real kind of similar feeling from this card here. And it was up the right way as well. This was the card that was up the wrong way. So, yeah, just this real deep sense of almost like it's going to start this questioning, this kind of, or it has started, because this is what's moving away. This is the energy that's been around for a while, but it's moving away. It's this sense of kind of people beginning to look deeper behind things. So this is the Injustice card, rather than the Justice card being in reverse. And the Chariot also came out in reverse as well, which is in our head. Again, I feel a strong feeling of this blocked energy. We can't move forward. Again, very Libran card, again, because of the duality here as well. This sense of injustice, this sense of kind of, you know, imbalance, unfairness, the head and the heart. Things relate to the head and the heart and the needing to kind of balance and harmonise things in order to be able to move forward. If things aren't in balance, we can't move forward. So there is just this general feeling of this, everything being stuck. But on a bigger, grander scale of things, things have been very unjust for a long, long time. And it's kind of, I feel, coming to this head now where we're kind of really being shown the injustices in many ways. Or the fact that, you know, what is happening, it isn't, you know, it doesn't take any notice of your status or your wealth or your race or your gender or your, you know, any of those kind of dual separating things, this health problem isn't affected by any of it. It kind of, you know, it makes no difference. It makes no difference who you are at all, as we can see by the people who have been affected by it as well. So there is this kind of sense of just I just get this strong sense of things kind of, you know, there's this, it makes no difference. It just makes no difference. And in order for us to kind of move forward on a global world scale, things are going to have to come into this kind of bigger sense of justice and balance and fairness and harmony. And that really is what the kind of the conjunction and the of January has all been about as well, and also the conjunction that's just happened with Saturn and Mars, and the conjunction that happened with Pluto and Jupiter after that as well, because these are big planets that are meeting up, in the sense that these things don't happen all the time. These are big planets. So, big changes. Big planets, big changes. So let's see why we have the Page of Air and the King of Air together here. I'm just looking, so we've got 2 sevens that have come out there. Sevens being the card of change. So we have 2 knights have come out together. We have the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Wands, both in reverse. So the Knight of Cups talks about our deeper emotions, our feelings, our kind of, you know, the relationship card in many ways. The Knight of Cups, he wants to offer his cup to somebody. He wants to offer love. He wants to offer his heart and his honesty, his truthfulness. He represents the water signs again, Scorpio, Pisces and Cancer. It doesn't mean that they are necessarily the only ones who are deeply emotional, but they are very emotional, sensitive beings, so that's why it's represented by this energy. But on a larger scale, again, I get the feeling that it has got a lot to do with this, it's saying to me, you know, relationships at the moment, we're not trusting our heart. We're just not trusting our heart. And there's, you know, there is good reasons when we look back at relationships and, you know, all the relationships that we've had on this planet. Relationships are difficult. They've been difficult since Saturn and Pluto last met up back in the early 80s, 82, 83, or 81, 82. And that was the time that they met up in Libra, and that was also the time when divorces kind of skyrocketed through the roof, and kind of relationships took on a completely different kind of energy, in the sense that people started to live together more rather than being married as a couple, and people who were in relationships no longer had to kind of stay in those relationships just because of children or just because of they didn't want other people to, you know, what would that person think of them if they walked out on this person. There was kind of a sense of breaking through of that restrictive, again, kind of energy of having to, like, the old-fashioned idea of what a relationship was about, shall we say, kind of got completely obliterated in many, many ways. And relationships became a lot more kind of free and easy. And also, and they just kind of took on a different air, a completely different air, but it also at the same time caused a lot more complications, because Saturn being kind of, you know, restriction and control and establishment, and Pluto being the death of things and kind of the ending of things, as well as a kind of rebirth and kind of change of things, transformation. And so there has been, and this kind of Libra full moon as well, super full moon, and we had 2 full moons in Libra last year, which is a very unusual event as well. It's very, very rare to get 2 full moons in the same sign, and they both fell in Libra at the very beginning, at the very end of Libra last year, in the sign of relationships. And again, relationships kind of went through a kind of culling stage in many ways. There was a lot of relationships that came to an end. We also had kind of Venus retrograding as well. So there's a lot of mistrust in general, I feel, out there at the moment, which is kind of being highlighted even more so at this moment in time. And the Knight of Cups kind of represents that energy of the grass always being greener on the other side. So somebody who's not, the energy of not wanting to settle down, of not wanting to lose their freedom in many ways. And it's interesting because it is freedom very much at the moment that is being curtailed and being kind of put into a restrictive box. So both of these knights is kind of saying that, you know, at this moment in time, we're not trusting our own feelings about relationships, but we're also not ready to kind of to lose that freedom. That sense of freedom. But they're energies that are moving away. And again, they're around these 2 cards here. This restrictive energy, but I feel kind of is the Saturn in Uranus type of energy, the kind of restrictive, also the mind, the way that we think about things. And this energy of kind of questioning, seeking answers. So you've got these 2 cards in between both of these knights, and the knights are kind of, the knights are the knights are seen as messengers, but for me they're also seen as kind of changing energies. Because the knights were always seen as being kind, you know, they were the chivalrous gentlemen, you know, who would always be there when they were needed. They were called on in times of need. They were the protectors in many ways. They were the protectors. So these are upside down at the moment. So there is a sense of kind of like, you know, we can't even trust our own protectors. And maybe that's also what it's saying here as well, is that we feel that, you know, on some level those people that we put our trust in to protect us aren't able to do that either. And maybe that they don't always have the answers as well that we're looking for, that we kind of think that they should have as well. So the King of Fire, let's find out why he's here. Here we go. He's come out with the Four of Pentacles, which is in some ways a very similar energy again, because this is about holding on tightly to something, and this is about kind of, I feel, you know, that restriction again, about our having to keep our passion and our desires in check. And this is our restriction. The Four of Pentacles is the physical realm. This is in the subconscious though, so we're kind of feeling that we're having to, I get the strong feeling actually that this is about us feeling as though we're having to kind of, you know, protect ourselves, in the sense of, you know, this is going out and buying everything in sight. This is us rushing out and buying all the loo rolls and all the food and all the, you know, the necessities in life. Those things that we feel that if we don't have them, then, you know, if we don't buy as much as we can, then we're going to go without. That's the energy that I'm picking up from this card today. It's, I have to take care of number one. I have to make sure that I have all I need. And I'm going to hoard it, and I'm going to hold on to it. And I'm not willing to share it. So that's the deep subconscious realm. And this is kind of what's been fired up in a way. This is what's kind of been brought to the surface. This is what's kind of like the driving passion here has become. This kind of fear element has turned into this. It turned into this driving kind of need to make sure that number one was going to be okay. And number one also, of course, you know, represents family as well, and those close to us. But very much a kind of sense of, like, you know, every man, woman for themselves. Every man, woman and child kind of energy. Look out for yourself here. And maybe that was a necessity, who knows? You know, it's come out upright, so maybe that is exactly, you know, it's a survival mode. It's kind of, we go into that survival mode, that fear. Survival is always, the underlying energy is fear. Fear of not surviving, fear of not having enough, fear of going without. Which, on the planet that we live on at this moment in time, it's not surprising, because there has been an awful lot of that on this planet for many hundreds of years. And also, on a deeper subconscious level, if that's the driving force, then, you know, it could also relate to the stories of our generational past as well. You know, like the Second World War, for instance, where everybody had to kind of go on to rations, and so there's that kind of, you know, that memory there as well in our kind of DNA, if you like. You know, it wasn't that long ago. Grandparents were living through those times. So, grandparents, great-grandparents. So it's not that far away from us, really, in the history of the planet. So, the Magician. We have the High Priestess. There we go. I feel very much this energy is this energy here. And she's working with this magician, which is great, which is lovely. This is the subconscious working with the manifesting on a much deeper level. This is two major arcana cards together. Both very mystical, both very kind of behind the scenes, unseen, kind of knowing energy. The magician. Especially this card here. Especially, sorry, the High Priestess. She is that kind of, like I was saying, you know, the weaver who weaves the story of what's happening on the spiritual realm as well. Bringing the spiritual into the physical. And this is what we are kind of manifesting, pardon me, excuse me, manifesting for ourselves at this moment in time. It is the unseen realm. It is the realm of the keeper of secrets. She has the moon here in the background as well, because the moon represents the unseen as well, things that are kept hidden. It also represents cycles of time as well, how things change within cycles of time. Which is also, I feel, you know, with this, if you look here, it's kind of, it is this circle here represents that kind of cycles of time. And how everything moves in cycles. You know, the planets move in cycles. Our lives move in cycles. We move in cycles. We have our own cycles as well. The human body has its own cycles. The human body kind of replenishes all its cells within 7 years. So it's always changing, even though we can't see it. It happens behind the scenes, but it's constantly taking place. Things are constantly changing. It is one of the only things that we can rely on, is the fact that things are constantly changing, and that there is this bigger story. And I feel that that's what these cards here coming out together are saying, that there is this bigger story that is unfolding behind the scenes, but it isn't. I just get this really strong feeling here of this kind of Wizard of Oz energy of the curtain and the magician behind the wizard, the Wizard of Oz, literally, and he's green as well. That's funny. And that he's literally kind of behind, you know, it's behind the scenes, the energy that is kind of behind that curtain, that veil, that unseen realm, which is actually coming through each and every one of us, manifesting every day, day to day. Everything that happens to us in our life is manifested through this, and our story that we create as we go through. It's like all our history has been created by us, by our belief system, by what drives us, by what we believe, by the energy that we put out there and bring it back to us. And so far it has been a very physical realm thing, because we live in a very dense 3D physical world, but that in itself is changing as well. The energies are changing, things are shifting, and we're moving more into a kind of more energetic realm, which is what I think this is also talking about here. That we're going to realise that the energies are not quite as solid or dense as we believe them to be, which is very Aquarian energy. And the magician kind of, to me, he does relate to that kind of Uranus, Aquarius, kind of creating energy. Manifesting change. Yeah. So, ending with two very strong positive forces of recreation. I just feel it's very strong recreation and transformation that this planet is going through on a very large scale. And this kind of Libra full moon is kind of highlighting many of those issues for us. Again, if you're interested in the astrology side of it, I did put a video out yesterday that you may want to go and watch. So I'm going to finish that actual reading there and move on to my Namaste blessing card very quickly, which is very red, very passionate, very kind of fiery in some ways, but I get more of a feeling of the passion coming through here. And the card itself is saying, the universe is testing you. Will you be faithful and true to yourself? Be courageous, for you are supported by a divine ocean of love. You are gifted at this time with the blessings of strong faith that will see you through the present challenges. So it is all about love. It is all about the Libra energies, literally, relationships, Venus. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus is all about love, value. So that's a really beautiful card. I'll just turn it over quickly for those of you who are interested in actually reading it for yourself. And I also pulled two Crystal Diva cards. I was just going to take one of them, but when I saw them I just thought, no, they kind of make so much sense. I'm going to have to do both of them. So I will quickly read you the first one that came out, which is Selenite, and is Tolerance, which I think is really quite applicable at the moment, really quite important. Tolerance, I think it's really very relevant to what we're experiencing at this moment in time. And it relates to the crown chakra, and it's a clear crystal. And it says, the millennium that began the Piscean age was ushered in by the Master Jesus, the Christ, as you called him, spoke of love for all. Regardless of outer differences, his messages have endured for 2,000 years, and although millions have worshipped him, his words did not have the impact that was intended. Yes, people attend holy places of worship. Yes, people profess to be righteous. Still, most humans do not love unconditionally. Humans love selectively. If someone, and I feel that this is what this is about as well, if someone is of an acceptable colour, gender, religion, ethnic background or philosophy, then they may be found worthy of love. Even in your own families, love is earned. Good behaviour, good grades, expectations met may earn love. Few are loved because of who they are. Instead, they are loved because of what they do. Was this Jesus' message? The new age that is upon us now is an opportunity to manifest these ancient teachings. As a relatively new mineral on the planet, we have come at this special time of transformation to move into a spiritual maturity with you. As I was saying earlier, spiritual, a more spiritual age is what we are moving into. Our message is one of tolerance, a tolerance of self and a tolerance of others, which is basically what this new moon in Libra has been about as well. As I was saying, the Libra energy being the other and the sun in Aries being the self as well. So it's all about learning about how to you know, not allow ourselves to give too much to the other, but respect ourselves, but also take responsibility. Again, in my other reading, this is the age in which the so-called holy wars will come to an end. The practice of killing people who do not look like you or do not agree with you will cease. And this is also what I was talking about with this health issue as well, the way that it doesn't have any barriers. It doesn't differentiate between people. Humans will begin to see their fellow men and women as reflections of the whole. The external will no longer matter. You will look into the hearts and minds of your fellow humans and feel their intentions. A person will always be presumed worthy of love. If someone falls from high ideals, they will be treated with kindness and understanding. They will not be punished by rejection. They will gently and thoughtfully be shown where they went astray. Your rules of law state that someone will be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Do most people practice this doctrine of non-judgment? And this is kind of this imbalance here as well. Literally, like, you know, in our law courts today, can we actually say that that is the case, that people are proven innocent, or are innocent until proven guilty, or are they guilty and they have to prove their innocence? Which is what I believe has happened. There has been this complete turnaround in all our justice systems. Why have you selected our card today? As you read this passage, are there people or situations that pop into your mind? These images are trying to help you connect with an issue of tolerance. Have you been intolerant of someone or yourself? Or did you experience the intolerance of another? If so, how did it feel? Try to imagine the feeling of the persistent intolerance that those of different colours, religions, physical appearances, sexual preferences, or nationalities experience when in unfamiliar territory. The next time you feel intolerant, remember what it feels like to be ridiculed, scorned, or ignored just because you are so different. An important key to tolerance involves letting go of judgment. Try relating to family, friends, and yourself with fewer judgments about what is appropriate, valuable, or worthy. Extend the attitude to strangers. If you were forced to decide which of your beliefs were important enough to die for, your list would probably decrease measurably. Which kind of reminds me of this card here as well. Make a commitment to drop at least 5 nonsensical requirements that you place on yourself or others. If you are using certain criteria to determine what or who is suitable, you are probably isolating yourself from loved ones and strangers. Our love and tolerance go out to you. We have faith that you will open your hearts to others without conditions. Let your tolerance begin today. So that was the first card, and then I got the card of the watermelon tourmaline, sorry. The watermelon tourmaline, which is literally the card of unconditional love. And I looked at them both and I thought, well, they just go so well together. And in fact, the selenite actually talks of unconditional love within its reading as well. So I thought, okay, I'll have to do both. So this is the heart and the heart chakra, sorry, and it's green and pink because the heart is seen as being green and pink. The pink being the unconditional love and the green being the heart chakra energy itself, which relates to nature and our connection with nature from the heart. So it says the first step to unconditional love is loving yourself unconditionally. In the universal school of love, self-love must precede love of others, for a very special reason. And this is the energy that I was talking about with this Libra full moon, to take responsibility for the love that you are putting into somebody else, into the other. If the other is not reciprocating, if there isn't that balance, if there isn't that harmony, if there isn't that sense of fairness, then something, you need to stop it, and you need to kind of put that energy into yourself and love yourself instead of expecting that other person to do it for you. So that's really the message here. Love of self is the beginning, a kindergarten for testing out the love experience. It is a space to explore new feelings and experiences. You discover and play with them, paint them into your life and mould them into expression. They are our teachers. Self-love is important practice for opening your heart to others. If you can forgive yourself for your perceived misdeeds and imperfections, you will be capable of doing the same for others. You must release self-blame before you can truly embrace all other creatures. You have grown accustomed to giving love based on deservedness, which again goes back to this card here, which was talking about why we love somebody if they're good and we don't love somebody if they're bad, or if they don't meet our expectations, or if they don't, you know, if we have all these kind of conditions for loving somebody. When someone has been kind to you, or when you consider them to be a good person. What about people who have hurt you or appear to be despicable in some way? Are they less deserving of love? In reality, they may need a lot more love than the folks who seem more worthy. Unconditional love means that there are no strings attached, no conditions placed on your gift of love. The universe makes no distinction about the worthiness of recipients for love and abundance. In its eyes, you are created from the original spark, and therefore all are filled with divine light. And I think that's what this is saying as well. This is kind of a divine light and the kind of original spark here. This little fairy, symbolically, I feel represents that representation of the universal spark of love and light and creativity. Do you always give altruistically? There may be times when you give of yourself because you feel obligated, guilty, or pressured from external forces. Do not chastise yourself for what you might consider to be impure motives. See those incidents for what they are, but understand that this is not the same as unconditional. When giving comes from a place of unconditional love, fellowship is shared between two souls and hearts are opened. The melding of the pink and the green energies of our colours represent the reverence of self and the reverence of others, part of the domain of the heart chakra. Our physical structure shows how the two travel together as interlocking complementary aspects of each other. They are the yin and the yang of love expression, the inturning and the outpouring of love. Unkind, hurtful behaviour is a distortion of universal goodness and godliness, but the soul learns through experiences. In the process, it may get banged around and lash out with negativity. This may be undesirable and repugnant. However, it is part of the process of duality that must be experienced before the natural returning to the light, which again I think is this card here, this duality, this kind of sense of strong, as I was saying, the head and the heart, the emotions and the logic, the duality here. The return to wholeness is a reabsorption of dark into light. It is a decision that must be consciously entered into by each individual. To provide the soul with the necessary information for growth, you must experiment with both the light and dark expressions of your character throughout many incarnations. After numerous adventures testing each side out, you will decide which path you want to follow. And I kind of feel that that's where we are at this moment in time as well, this kind of divergence between the two paths. There's a kind of, you know, choose which side you represent in many ways, as the kind of Jupiter and Pluto coming together energy. Pluto representing the more darker, hidden side of things, the kind of unpleasant side of things, and Jupiter representing the more kind of optimistic, joyful, happy, brighter, light side of things. You have selected our card because unconditional love wants to express itself in your life. You may be the giver or the receiver. Regardless, you will learn more about unconditional love through your experience with it. What do you need to understand about unconditional love that will allow you to express or receive it more fully? Do you feel that you are loving unconditionally? If not, how can you bring this energy into your life? What steps can you take? And I think at this moment in time, this is very relevant because we are kind of all having to learn this unconditional love for ourselves and also for others as well. So I'm just going to skip, there's quite a bit here, but I'm not going to read all of it. It talks about prejudices, universal truth, illusions that humans create to separate and elevate themselves. Forgiveness is a fundamental component of unconditional love. Harbouring resentment towards others, it will be impossible to truly love them. Try to see abusive or neglectful behaviour as the tormented acting out of people in great agony. This could all be very relevant in the coming months. Although it may not appear on the surface, we can assure you their souls are under siege, which is interesting as well. That's everything that's going on the planet at this moment in time. Pain, anger and bitterness. Grieve for yourself and others involved. Purge your soul of this darkness that has possessed you for such a long time. It has imprisoned you. Set yourself and the perpetrators free. Look around you in your life and see the opportunities for unconditional love. Love yourself. A parent, a sibling, a boss, a friend, the alcoholic on the corner, the rapist, the murderer. Giving love to some people may be easier than others. At first, remember that the kindergarten foundation is necessary for the graduating diploma. Unconditional love is purely motivated by compassion, caring, and an open heart. The bonus is that love given with the intention of helping, healing, and allowing returns the same experience to the giver. Although never the intention of unconditional love, it is a delightful, unexpected benefit that you yourself will receive that healing. Above all, do not forget that you are profoundly deserving of the same unconditional love that you extend to others. And that is the energy of these two, and the reason why I thought that these two cards should come out together instead of me just taking the one card, which I was going to do. Something very strongly said to me, no, you need to take both of them. So that's the energies, the crystal energies for this time of these next 2 weeks, which could be very important. And I'm not going to say any more than that, but I will say thank you very much for listening to my video and any previous videos that you may have watched. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please could you subscribe to my channel, please like it. more likes, more thumbs up I get, the more it gets out there, as I've said earlier as well. And so all that's left for me to say is thank you again for listening to my video, and please take really good care of yourself at this difficult time that we are all going through at this moment, and also take care of others. It will return to you. Thank you.